Perfect. So the thing about it is we'll have it
Thank you.
forever and
Matt, have you ever met
Yeah.
the wife for you?
you want to go a half hour? No, we gotta just. How much time? We got 15 minutes, because that's usually where I'm at. I gotta get Jeffrey out here.
We're at 12.
Okay, and Ryan's got things to do too.
And we're good to go.
I'm on vacation starting today, so.
Oh, okay.
My best friend lives in the North Shore neighborhood.
Matt and I are
And I went out, he got a group to go out.
Maddie.
We're good to go.
Ready to go? Okay. Ryan McCullough with us here now. All right, first of all, I want to talk about being the greatest skier in the history of Penn football. All right, you have one of the most unique careers, because there was a lot of questions, were you even going to be able to play Penn football, because you were a very good youth, what's the term I want to use, age group, youth skier. I remember doing a story on you on the cover of one of our magazines. So let's talk about that and the fight to get you to play.
Wasn't so much if I look back at it now, I think football always came first. I think a lot of people question that, especially on the winter sports side. They didn't understand why I would do that to my body, knowing the talents I had on the mountain. And skiing obviously is a winter sport, so all the hard work's done in the fall, which I didn't have an opportunity to participate in those fall workouts and that. So the decision was more people questioning what I was doing. I mean, I grew up a Kingsman, and that was first and always foremost what I was going to do. And I missed a lot of opportunities with skiing because of football, and I don't ever regret any of those. But the craziest part of that whole dynamic was, I believe our junior year, we had just won the first round of sectionals, and all of a sudden heck broke loose. There was a leak to the paper that I was a professional athlete, participated in a IHSA tournament now at this point, and Chris knows the details better than I, and Mr. Reisner at the time. But next thing you know, we're literally meeting with lawyers for the next 3 days down in Indianapolis, trying to figure out if Penn could continue on in the state tournament. And here I am. It might have been my sophomore year, actually, now that I think about it. Now that I look back, I was just petrified that, I was one of 100 on this machine that just completely could have knocked us out of the playoffs. It would be like, throwing a pick six on the final drive to lose the game. It was just heartbreaking, and ultimately Penn staff got us out of it, and I was never really in the wrong anyway. It was just more the press, and certain people wanted to take it to that route. But yeah, I mean, there was really no regret. I was able to participate in both through high school and through college, and I say my prayers every day that I didn't give up football. And Penn, the coaches really supported what I did.
Putting on the Penn helmet for the first time as a varsity athlete, take me back to that moment. If you remember the game itself, or whatever the place may have been, if it was street field or on the road, and what was going through your mind?
Mine was very clear, very specific, and it wasn't a game. It was actually, as a freshman, that senior class was making a run at state, and they had asked freshmen to come up and help run the practice squad and scout team. And I just remember the first time putting on a helmet, walking up as a linebacker and seeing the Hogs from 4 feet away, and just going, my goodness, these guys are beasts. And I remember the play. It was a typical Penn center play, and I thought I was going to make the tackle. And next thing you know, I'm getting trap blocked and knocked on the back of my head. And I forget which Hog it was, but he helps me up, and he's like, "Good job, man. Way to go hard at it." And I just overwhelmed, like, I'm finally a Penn. I mean, we played freshman that year, but I finally felt like I was a varsity, contribution and part of the tradition at that point.
The coaches created an environment of expectations for the position and not expectations for the player. They created the Wild Bunch and the Gold Rush. They come up with some things that for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, it was important. for someone who's at my age at 60, well, what is that? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But at the age you're growing up, those are important things that you want. I want to be a part of that wild bunch, So let's just talk about some of those things that they put out there to help you guys, motivate you guys.
Well, I mean, for the record, I never wanted to be part of the Gold Rush because I was a defensive guy. We actually hated the Gold Rush, if you ask some of us, just because they got all the hype and everything. But I don't know when it started, to be honest, but I do know middle school is when I kind of got the taste of that sticker and what it meant. It was explained to us at, I believe, the football camps, and obviously growing up in the Giesman household, I was always there on Friday nights playing knee football on the carpet after the game and doing things like that. So I understood it from a very young age, but I remember like 7th, 8th grade, I want to wear that sticker, and it went across the the front of your helmet, because Wally would always yell at us, they got to see you coming, they got to know the Wild Bunch is coming, and that I do remember when we got him in camp as a starter. I think a few of us were almost teary-eyed, which is for a 16-year-old to be emotional. It meant a lot. The tradition and the guys who had represented that group and taken it along, it was very prideful. And we set goals as a Wild Bunch that were, by senior year, very specific. We wanted to outscore our offense, and we wanted to allow less than 2 points a game. And we kept that for quite a big part of the season. But that's how serious and how big of a tradition it was to say, wow, that's a pretty aggressive defense to set goals like that.
Let's talk about your position coaches and those guys who that Matt may have changed during the 3 years that you were there, or 4 years that you were there. But let's talk about the influence that they had on you.
First and foremost, I think Wally, Coach Yeoman was. When I look back, all my fondest memories were, kind of started with him once I put the black and gold on. If you asked him I think by the time I graduated from Penn, I played against nearly 100 NFL athletes, because everyone we were going to face or guard or tackle was, the next, Joe Namath or going to be a world class. So it was funny, and you get halfway through the game and you're like, that kid's slower than me and smaller than me. All week I'm envisioning, according to Coach Wally, I thought I was playing against Walter Payton, and we'd never be able to tackle this kid, and he's just going to laugh at us and run for 300 yards. And after the first hit, the kid's weeping, and I don't think he had a positive yard the whole game. And somehow the next Monday he reconvinced us that here they come again. And it's almost a Lou Holtz that most people are familiar with. And when you didn't take it seriously, I mean, his level of discipline, and a lot of that came from Coach Monhood as well. I mean, those guys, you did your job, you had to do it 100% every time, because there was 11 guys right behind you that were just as good, and you couldn't, take a play off and all that. So Donnie and Wally definitely, from looking back, had the most influence. But I mean, Coach Trent, or Todd was always on the sidelines, Wally was in the press box, so there was game moments where, I mean, some of my fondest moments were, with discussions with Coach Todd Yeoman on the sidelines, and Klinger and Barrier. I mean, all of them I've got special stories and moments, in my head from all of those coaches.
One of the things that Chris started when he began him and Dr. Spiker created this mindset mantra, if you will, of the Penn Way. There's going to be a portion in our book that was going to define what the Penn Way is. So, Ryan, what does the Penn Way mean to you as a student athlete, and now as a very successful person in the world, successful business person and father and whatnot? How has the Penn Way transformed you into where you are at today professionally?
There's a couple of reasons that I think I use it every day, but I mean, I look at it as a system. And we played, especially when you look at Penn's offense, I mean, everyone in the country knew the 3 or 4 plays they were going to run every Friday night, and you couldn't stop them. That's because they taught it so well, they did it so many times, and the basics and the fundamentals were just so perfect in that's why it worked. And the defense was no different. When we were all 11 of us moving to the ball at full speed, I mean, we did pursuit drill over 40, 50 times a week. Just a simple pursuit drill where you had to take the right angles and And I kind of look at how I'm, starting or raising my family and at work. It's just teaching my kids, just do those basic things every day. Whether it's as simple as brushing your teeth, to, calling in for work and, talking to your boss, just things that they expect, and not taking any of those things for granted and getting out of the fundamentals and basics of your daily job. And then, so when things go awry or opportunities come up, you're not behind on all that stuff. You're prepared. And I think that's, like the pursuit drill. When the guy finally got outside of our defense, we were prepared for it. We were all taking the right angles to catch him 30 yards downfield and save a touchdown and, hopefully force a punt 3 plays later. So that's kind of the Penn way to me. And fortunate with my class and, continuing on, but I also look at Penn way as winning and expecting to win. And that's one thing they instilled in that through the generation I played in. It was expected to win, and you were expected to put the work in to get those wins.
What's your funniest Penn moment that we won't have to bleep out? You have one that jumps off the page at you that you look back and say, the guys in my class, we still talk about it to this day.
Man, you could make a movie on those, do a story on those. I'm going to tell 2 real quick. One wasn't involved with me, but I'll just never forget it because Coach Geese is part of that. But the first one was in a scrimmage versus our Gold Rush versus Black, or Wild Bunch Gold Rush scrimmage early in the season. I dropped an interception, and Wally just came unglued on me, and it was kind of at the end of practice. It was the end of 2-a-days. I'd been around him for 2 weeks. And I'll never forget. I knew I was making a mistake when I did it. He was giving it to me, and I walked away. And I was going to get a water bottle or something specifically. I wasn't really ignoring, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this. And he's like, don't you? He kind of jumps over, and goes, take your helmet off. And the field wasn't a turf field then, but he said, walk around this field, don't come back until this helmet's filled with rocks. That was his discipline for dropping an interception, which, that's kind of the expectations they had. The second one is watching films. We sat in as a team, and Coach Geese and Scott Dreisbach would have just some epic rivalries. And I mean, you'd watch the same play literally 60 times, and you'd be like, Scott, throw it now! Scott, throw it now! And the defensive guys are just sitting there rolling their eyes like, man, this is ridiculous. It would happen every Monday in film session. There would be one play he would pull out and give it to Scott, and we always thought that was hilarious because it was the offense. Scott was our glamour quarterback, and he was getting in front of all 100 of us. So those are 2 of my kind of offbeat, behind the scenes funniest moments at Penn.
Well, you've seen the program as a high school athlete win multiple state championships and where it's at today. Any surprise?
Yes and no. I mean, it's still shocking how they can keep it going, and with all the opportunities, all the noise around social media. I mean, there's just so many ways that kids can get pulled. There's recruiting in high school now, private schools. Obviously, there's hundreds of athletic directors across the country that are probably pulling at the coaching staff out of Penn to keep that system going at a coaching level as a school organization it's amazing. I lived in Colorado for 15 years, and it seems like every 3-4 years there's a Penn, and then they disappear, and then every 3. So to see it year after year is unbelievable, and I think it's awesome, especially living out of the area for a while, like I said, and seeing. You just don't have that. From a player perspective, even goes back to that they still continue to motivate the numbers they do with the phones and the gaming and other sports, and kids being told, hey, you can't play football and baseball. You're going to be a great basketball player. Focus on that, and they're able to still continue to keep kids coming out every year for Penn and the best athletes in the area. And if they're not, they make them at least in a position where you wouldn't know any better, and they teach them the right fundamentals and basics, and can compete with any school in the country. It truly is. It's awesome, and I'm fortunate enough now because I have a freshman or a son entering as a freshman, and he gets to step in there and see it for himself.
Final question. When you took that helmet off the last time, what did you feel?
Well, when I took it off the last time we got beat in the playoffs in '94, I thought that was it. It was very emotional. That team, Matt alluded earlier, that class that I was a part of, we hadn't lost a game in our entire career. I mean, we lost as juniors when we were contributing, but when we were the leaders. We won 6th grade undefeated all the way through, and so but that season we had a lot of turmoil. We had tons of injuries. We had a lot of issues with injuries and just bang-ups, so it was. I won't say we felt it was coming, but we knew we weren't a full team, and it was heartbreaking. I was fortunate enough to play in the Indiana All-Star game and wear the black and gold one more time with Coach Wagner, I believe was the coach down there. Rosendahl ended up getting sick and couldn't play, but that was very special because most of the Penn coaching staff came down and supported me, past players, younger players, and that was really unique because it was kind of like a second chance. I thought I was putting my helmet off, giving it to the equipment manager for the last time ever, only to get it back a few months later. And I played with no regrets in that game, and it was kind of fun to get that last taste out of your mouth and get an opportunity at it.